What's up, everybody? I'm Hunter Angell, aka Zaba Cards. I'm the creator of Nostalgix, and this is our second set. I've done a tier list for the base set. Now we're going to continue it onto Harmonic Surge, which is the second set we ever released. These are all the cards. I took out the alternate arts, so it looks a little bit smaller here, but we're not going to have any duplicates or void rares this time. And I'm not live streaming, so no chat distracting. Without further ado, let's get it on. Let's get this thing cooking, and let's review all the cards. So starting off, we're going to do Darumip. Darumip, however you want to pronounce it, is an evolution of Turnip. And we'll do Turnip in a second here. I'll try to stick to evolution lines. But Turnip evolves into 4 different creatures in this set. And I believe Tuneup from base set makes it the 5th. So as far as his evolutions go, they're all pretty decent. They all have armor, which makes them immune to essentially 1 chunk of damage. So if you have 2 armor and you get dealt 1,000,000 damage, only the 2 armor gets hit. So the armor has to be completely down before you can damage the health. And then if you have Death Touch, and you hit somebody with armor, it doesn't destroy them. You have to deal actual life damage to destroy a fighter with Death Touch. So a bit of a shield there. Darumip though, for a 6 cost, I mean, it's decent. We're going to start him out as a B tier. I feel like it's only fitting. Next up, we're going to jump to the Turnip. We'll go backwards here quick. This version of Turnip has an armor instead of having all health in there. And his 1-up beat deal 1 damage to each, or for each non-token fighter you have in play. I haven't had that come up too often. Typically, it's like if you have a lot of Bucky bots or something low, you can get them. And you can also sacrifice a non-token fighter and give them some additional attack, which is pretty cool. If somebody's damaged, you can get rid of them. It's decent. I would say at least A tier. Maybe B tier. You know what? We're going to shift this. B tier, C tier. Because I don't think he's quite an A, but he's decent. Alright, so next up, Mechanator. This is his biggest evolution. It costs 8, has 2 armor, tons of health, and it does 9 damage. You can sacrifice light fighters to give it a boost of attack and health. I think this is his best evolution. I actually run kind of a Turnip EV deck, and I really like Mechanator. So for that, I'm going to say he is up there with Turnip as a B tier. It's a very high cost. If you can extra life him, that's awesome. But B or A tier, very solidly within that. Next up, we have Crabbrave. This is his 5 cost evolution. Allows you to sacrifice a water fighter and give your crab an extra 3 health and 3 attack. Again, 2 armor, it's dealing 5 damage for 5, so it's a little worse. It's kind of weird that it sacrifices water, but it is a crab, but it's a fire type. C tier. Solid C tier. And his final evolution, Beats. This allows you to sacrifice a firefighter and gives you +3 and +3. His attack run over is very similar to the other one. I still maintain that Mechanator is the best, which will put this one at a solid C tier. Okay, from here, because the list goes on to arenas, we're going to go into arenas. Lava Floor is amazing. It does 1 damage to all of the player's fighters at the end of their turn, but it can't be terminal damage, so it can't actually destroy the fighter. But everybody gets charged. So now when you play a fighter, you could just attack right away like it's Yu-Gi-Oh! I love this card. I think it should be in many, many decks. It's a good balance between you and your opponent. And despite the art, it does not necessarily give you the high ground. A tier. Beyond that, we have Frog Sanctuary. It's a little callback to the Pollywog people. There we go. Rest in peace. I don't know if that game's creating anything nowadays, but at the time they had a lot of frogs in a set, and it was really cute. But all fighters take 1 less damage from all sources and are immune to Death Touch. It's a good card. I don't personally use it too much. B tier, but it's decent. Next up, Half Speed. Each turn, a player's current mana refills to half their maximum, rounded down. You really slow down the game in this case. I don't see a point where anybody would want to do this unless you're like really far ahead, but it's kind of a weird card. I haven't seen any player use it well. D tier, unfortunately. I don't really like slow games, but if you are into this, that's the card for you. Next, we got Hunting Season. Really cool 8-bit artwork with Puppet Master Wrong on here, holding a cuckoo. Every time a fighter token is summoned, deal 1 damage to its owner's hero. This is the anti-token arena. So if you're summoning foxes, if you're summoning puppets, if you're really summoning anything that's a token, you're gonna take damage to your hero for summoning that. I wish it dealt damage to the tokens, but that would be kind of OP, so it's just a slow bleed on token players. It also counters Nakira, which is really nice. B tier. Okay, New Game Plus. Another really wild arena. Your fighter's attacks do 2 more damage after weakness and resistance. All spells, equipment, and surprises cost 1 less. So everything gets shaken up on this one. You can do a lot of damage. Since you're the one playing it, you have the first opportunity to take advantage of this. I think it's one of the better arenas in here. A tier, very solidly. Gated Event. This is no more evolution fighters. So no more jumbo card dragons, booster box dragons, any of that. However, you can sacrifice up to 2 of them from your hand, level 2 or higher fighters, and gain half their combined mana cost, rounded up. So if you get rid of a 6 and an 8 cost, 14, you gain 7 mana that you can use your turn. That can blow you past 10 mana maximum as well. So now you've got, potentially 17 mana on turn 10, which is really, really cool. I like this card because you can use it early game, and it's massive. I mean, if you use this on turn 3 or 4, then you could sacrifice giant cards from your hand and really jump ahead. And if your opponent isn't prepared for that, they're going to get blindsided. A tier. A tier if you know how to use it. But you definitely have to use that one correctly. Next, I see the last arena on here, Pure Chaos. This card is wild. As the name would suggest, you can play any evolution fighter for the cost of their evolution. So baby card costs 1, jumbo's 2, booster box dragon is 3. That is insane. I really like this card. It doesn't let you do Jellyfints because, thank goodness, we don't let you do Jellyfints. I'm gonna say A tier. We really tried to up our arena game on this, and I think we succeeded, all things said and done. We can do heroes next. So once during your turn, you can pay 2 mana to give one of your fighters an armor. It's a little more expensive. The armor does, fully block an attack and kind of stop that from hitting the rest of your fighter's health. It's a bit more expensive, so not my favorite hero ability. I'm gonna say C tier for this one. King Freegus. This guy has drastically different art. Check this out. That's his normal. This is like his full power version. Once during your turn, you can pay 2 mana and place a lucky shield on a fighter. This is an arbitrary token, essentially, that when a player attacks a fighter with a lucky shield on it, the player attacking has to roll a dice. And if even, the attack does nothing. If odd, the attack actually goes through. And that happens every time. So even if you get through it once, you still have to do it every attack coming in. Mix that with armor, with anything else, even like a saving grace behind the scenes, you're in really good shape. This card is not going down anytime soon. And for that, I've actually got that in my turnip deck where everything's got armor. Love this guy. I'm going to say he's B tier. Yeah, that's a good, solid hero. Next on the list, I'm very, very biased for this one. I'm going to jump a little bit. Fantasia Stella. This card lets you remove 2 from your void, just remove them from the game entirely, and then draw 1 from the bottom of your deck. And in doing so, a lot of the cards that, put cards on the bottom of your deck, or even when you mulligan at the start of the game, you can kind of start stacking the bottom of the deck to draw specific cards. This hero ability is underutilized in my opinion. I have a deck specifically based around it, and it's the most fun I have playing trading cards in ever. It's a blast. I recommend everybody try it out, make a deck around it. It's just really a different vibe than any other card game I've seen. S tier. That's why she's coming back in Cosmic Collision. S tier hero. Devante Mort. Kind of a darker art for us, This is a Gravekeeper that maybe possibly went on a massacre. Just saying, he's a villain. He does bad stuff. But once during your turn, you can pay 1 mana, give a fighter of yours Crescendo. And fighters with Crescendo, if they attack in a turn, they get a +1 attack token at the end of that turn. So, see, you've got a Buckybot out, you hit, does 1 damage at the end of the turn, bloop, +1 attack, and it just keeps growing. It's a crescendo. It's okay. You have to keep your fighter alive, so obviously the ability is tied to a fighter's health. C tier, it's okay. If you could pull it off long term, it's good, but it's a slow increase. Next up, we're going to go to Neo Delios. This is a very metal card. He is the brother of Engineer-Ip, or Engineer 1P, however you want to say it. He's the uncle of Kabu, the weird uncle in the corner. And once during your turn, you may pay 1 mana to summon a 1 health, 1 attack mech token. This would be fine on its own, but the fact that it's a mech immediately jumps this up to an S tier. This hero, if you run a mech deck, is the hero you should be playing, bar none. This is the one you should be playing. No excuses. Vargas. This is the secret rare of the set. Secret rare, void rare card. There's one after this as well, but Vargas is weird. He's got a dual ability. So once during your turn, you can pay 2 mana. Choose an effect. Either draw a card or deal 2 damage to a fighter with armor. So you can essentially take out the armor from them or draw a card for 2 mana. The versatility is nice. I like the option. The lower health is kind of a hit against it, but solid B tier. Yeah, if you can get away with that lower health, maybe an A, but solid B. And the last technical hero is the Atomic Frog. This is the true final card in Harmonic Surge. Kind of a spoiler for Cosmic Collision coming out. Pre-orders below. With this, you actually put it in your deck, and when you draw it, you can replace your hero with the Atomic Frog for 6 mana. So you can't start your game with the Atomic Frog, you have to play him on top, and then your life goes up to 25. So if you're below, it goes up. If you're above, it goes down. Atomic Frog starts at 25 health. Once per turn, you can pay 2 mana, plus the cost of a fighter from your void to summon that fighter from your void. Level 2 and above fighters may be used if the pre-evolution of it is in play. So that is to say, if you've got a Jumbo Card Dragon in play, you could pay 2 and then 8 for Booster Box Dragon, so 10, and evolve Jumbo Card into Booster Box from your void. Pretty cool. I like that one a lot. The fact that it pulls your hero health up and allows you to summon from your void, easy A tier. Atomic Frog is awesome. I don't currently have a rule where it's like one of these per deck, but if you had 4 right now, I mean, you could keep your hero alive for quite a while just from that. From here, we're going to jump into, it looks like we can do a couple fighters. Kind of switch it up a bit here. Toxifox. He's next on our list. He's a Fox type, which immediately baseline puts him at B tier. There's a lot of Fox synergies, but you can deal any amount of non-fatal damage to one of your Foxes, and if you do, deal double that amount to an opponent's fighter or hero. So it doesn't have to be on Toxifox, it can be on any Fox you have, and you're kicking back double. A tier. That's just a good card objectively. If you have a Semperkin out there, it's growing health every turn, you can keep damaging it for 2, dealing 4, and it never actually damages Semperkin, which is just really, really cool. Yeah, I like that one. We're going to get to this Void Rare next, which is Hardy. This is actually a limit break card that the breaker decided to put in Harmonic Surge. It's a dancer, so it synergizes with the other dancers in the set that we'll see later. It's immune to binding, which alone is at least a B tier. And it's got Last Dance, which says if it's at 1 health, when it attacks, draw a card and give it +1 before dealing damage. Its Releve Rush gives adjacent fighters +2 attack. This is a very, very powerful card for 4. Easily deserving of an A tier. Very, very good, powerful card for that. And a good Void Rare. Next, we're going to go to Puppetto. This is just a really skewed high set, in my opinion. Puppetto is Puppet Master Wrong's best friend, in this case. So when this is played, give each of your other puppets in play +2 health and +1 attack. So basically not Puppet Master himself, he's a panda, but the tokens he summons, they all double in attack and health value. And then no strings attached, you could sacrifice one and fully heal one of your fighters. It's really bright. Or use Ventriloquist for 4 damage. Him alone attacking is not the greatest. If you have it with wrong, it's really good. I'm going to land this at a B tier because it's reliant on Puppet Master Wrong. On its own, it's not the best, but it's pretty good. Yeah, B tier. I'm confident with that. Okay, we're going to jump into Sergeant Surge. Previously, his name was Mr. Boogaloo when the set was called Electric Boogaloo, but we've since changed it to Sergeant Surge. He also has Last Dance and Crescendo, so lots of abilities when he attacks and is low on health. I'd say a good run-of-the-mill armor card. He's going to land at a B tier for me. Alright, Unlucky Frog is the antithesis to Lucky Frog. If a player draws more than one card in a turn, their hero takes 1 damage for each card drawn past the first. So if you have multiple Lucky Frogs out, that means your opponent's going to be taking multiple hits every single turn. You will as well. And then Corrupted Lily, during your opponent's next turn, the first dice roll they perform will have a result of 1. So that immediately negates any of the Pigma lines. Essentially, all 3 of those are going to hit the hero in the face. It's a rare combination there, but that is definitely a good use of that. And then also 1 is an odd number. So if anything's odd or even, you're going to force an odd roll. Unlucky Frog is really powerful. I don't necessarily think he's S tier. With Lucky Frog, S tier. On its own, A tier. Alright, Lady Laveau. This is based on a New Orleans legend about a lady actually named Lady Laveau, just spelled differently. Once per turn, you may pay 4 mana to give a demon fighter of yours Death Touch. And then it's attack hexproof. Choose a fighter. They may not be targeted by attacks during your opponent's next turn. So essentially, they're immune. Lady Laveau is very powerful. I wish she was a 4-drop, but the fact that you can make any demon have Death Touch and not have to worry about equipping it, that's pretty cool. I'm going to pop Lady Laveau up to a solid B tier, bordering on A tier. The cost is the only thing keeping it from an A tier for me. Alright, Frenemy. The polar opposite of Friend. Frenemy is something that you actually summon on your opponent's side of the field and take one of their fighter slots. Every turn your opponent's fighters attack, Frenemy also attacks and basically punches your opponent's hero in the face. The one thing with this is when we built this, Sabotage does 1 damage to your hero. We wanted this to build up with Last Dance. So if it got to 1 health, it should have done like 1, 2, 3, 4, on and on and on. However, because it doesn't have a number here, when it has Last Dance, it actually causes your opponent to draw a card when it does damage, and it doesn't grow in attack. So it's a very weirdly phrased card, but if the opponent can get it down to 1 health, it benefits them. Otherwise, it's just a detriment, and you really want to take it out as quickly as possible. C tier. It's just okay. Rock'em Roll'em. I did not expect this card to be as good as it was. I'll be honest. It's got Taunt. It's a 4, 3 and 3. Hold the Line, though, is the thing that pushes this way above where it should have landed. Do 2 more damage for each fighter with Taunt you control. And typically you're like, okay, Stumpkins, maybe a token here and there. There's a lot of things that have Taunt. It has Taunt. It's not each other fighter, each fighter. So immediately this thing's doing 4 damage for 4. Every puppet token. Every tree. Keepers of the Peace. There are so many options that you can make and have Taunt. So Rock'em and Roll'em I have seen slap for 20 constantly. And the fact that it has Taunt and armor, I'm going to say it. It's an S tier. This card is baller. Mushrift Mage. Mushrift. Here he is. Last Dance, so if he's at 1 health, draw a card, +1 attack before damaging. Spore Cord, restore 1 health to each Dancer fighter. It honestly doesn't come into play very often. I love the art. I think he's cool, but he's kind of worthless. He's kind of worthless. Unless you run a Dancer deck, then he's good. He's not quite D tier, but he's kind of worthless. Musical Frog. A very cute card. I actually have a physical Musical Frog somewhere around here. Crescendo, so every time you attack, it gets more powerful. And Echoing Croak. Solid card. Nothing wrong with it. Nothing great with it. C tier. Botticelli. The Missing Ninja Turtle. It's got Zap, so it can ignore armor, and it does 5 damage. 4-drop. The fact that it can ignore armor, and that is such a rare mechanic in the set, B tier. Very few cards have Zap, and it's underutilized in my opinion. Magnafox. When this fighter comes into play, steal an equipment from your opponent and attach it to your Fox, which is so cool. And best thing, it still takes a slot on your opponent's side of the field, so they lose an equipment back row slot. Magnetic Draw, destroy any number of equipments attached to it, draw a card for each one destroyed, and then it can deal 3 damage. All that to say, if your opponent has a fanny pack or a satellite sling from Cosmic Collision, this thing is a beast. And the fact that it's a Fox just helps it. I'm jumping this up to A tier. I have to. It's just, the stealing equipment is so powerful. Nothing else does that. Alright, the next one is Dubstoad. This is one of our 4, maybe 5 dancers in the set, and you could honestly build an entire deck around these. So Dubstoad costs 7, which is pretty high. I love the attacks though. And Wubbit. So cool. Give this fighter a +1 attack token for each other dancer. It's going to be kind of hard to get these out. They cost 7, 5, 6, 4, and I actually know if Witchy Longlegs is a dancer. But they're all between 4 and 7. So getting multiples of these out is going to be kind of tricky. And at that point, you're dealing 6 damage anyway. Do you really need to be dealing more? But his attack, bind and deal 3 damage to each of your opponent's fighters. And you can't use this attack twice in a row. That's pretty powerful. That's like Jellyfin level plus. So for that, Mr. Dubstoad gets an A tier. That's a Jellyfin level card. Beyond this one, we have Thrillip. Cost 5, it's got 2/6, same ability, and then Beatip. Get it? Because Michael. Okay. If this attack targets a turnip or an evolution of turnip, the target is destroyed. Typically, that would not be a huge deal, but because this set has so many evolutions of turnip, and it basically turns them into the Eevee of the set, this card is really powerful for decks that have turnip. If they don't, it's kind of worthless. B tier. We're going to jump to Olay. A little Spanish dancing influence. Same ability, 1 cost more, basically 1 health more. Draw and reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a metal fighter, this attack does 3 more. So you're maybe doing 8 for 6. That's not too off basis. I'd say that's actually a little bit on the weaker side, so we're going to drop C tier for that one. We got a Bohemip. Freddie Mercury reference here. Same ability, 4 and 4 now. Bite the Dust. Wink. Summon a 1 health, 0 attack dancer token. This would actually boost all the dancers, and for that, we're giving it a B tier. That is the way to get more of them. You gotta get Bohemip out, and he's gotta lead the way. So we're gonna jump to Witchy Longlegs and see if this variation of it is a dancer. No, it's a mage. Okay, so immune to binding, that's great. Last Dance, awesome, love it. Topsy-turvy, roll a die. If the result's even, draw a card from the bottom of your deck. This one could go along with Fantasia Stella really well. And immune to binding, I think it's just very versatile for 4. Solid B tier. Okay, we're gonna get into the Tomepire series. These cards are goofy. I'm gonna admit the art is just goofy, but the effects are really nice. So once per turn, you can stack a card from your void underneath this fighter. So you're adding a page to the sheet. This fighter gains 1 health and 1 attack for each card stacked under it. And when it's destroyed, send all the stacked cards back to the void. And then Paper Wisp, you void a card from the top of your opponent's deck equal to the number of cards stacked under it. So this is a really, really powerful mill card. Works great with the baby card, booster card, jumbo card, that entire line. If you're going fire deck, it's kind of a mill deck in our game. So I'm gonna say, starting out, it's pricey, but yeah, it's pricey. That's the only thing I'll say. This should maybe be like a 2 or a 3 cost, but it's pretty cool. It's okay. Grimhold for 6. We're now at 10 collective mana invested into this. You can stack stuff, and now it's giving +2/+2. When you evolve it, all the cards that were previously stacked under Tomepire, switch that out, get transferred to Grimhold. And then Page Rage, you void cards at the top of the deck equal to the number of cards. Easy enough, but now you're essentially doubling it, right? So again, very expensive. I'm gonna go C tier. Oops, here we go. Last one in the series is Dragon. The art alone honestly saves this card and its entire series. But now everything stacked under it is +3/+3. And Fiery Solo does the same as the rest, so it starts as a base of 6, but then that was a lot of S's. Every card underneath your opponent voids from the top of their deck, and then you're getting 3/3. So this card is very, very powerful. It's got 6 armor, which I believe is the highest in the entire set. All that to say, it's slightly better, up to a B tier. Possibly an A, but you'd have to extra life to really make it an A. Evolving into this is going to take some time, so I'm confident keeping that at a B tier for now. We're going to get to Bullfrog. 2 cost, 5 damage. You can't do it twice in a row, though. Unless you somehow negate the ability with, say, Nullifying Void. I've seen that happen. This card's really good for a 2-drop, having essentially 2 armor, 2 health, 4 health to hit, and dealing 5 damage off the bat. It's a good card. I'm going to say A tier. Very, very nice. Croak Roar. The evolution doubles down. So now for 5, collectively 7 mana put into this, you're dealing 10 damage. Still the same armor. You can't attack twice in a row. So even if you evolved it, you can't, attack with Bullfrog, and then evolve and attack with Croak Roar. The next turn, you have to kind of wait in between there. 10 damage is powerful. That'll kill anything. For 5, it's decent, but lower evolutions are just better in my opinion. So putting that at a B tier. Alright, we're going to do the Afri line. Afri. It gives something else charge. That is the biggest element of this. You discard a card from your hand and give a different fighter charge. It's a utility card. That is an easy S tier. It evolves into Ifrita. Little Ifrit action here. Once per turn, discard a card from your hand to give another fighter charge and +2 attack. It's just as good as Afri. You get a little bit more attack, you get the extra damage. Ifrita's awesome if you can get it out. I feel like A tier. Just because, you have to get it out, right? And nobody is typically going to extra life a middle evolution. They're going to go for that. So we're going to save that for Aphorith. Aphorith is stunning. She's got 2 different arts. The Void Rare is what we put on here. And once per turn, discard a card to give all of your fighters charge. I don't have to say anything else. That is an S tier. However, I will say more because there's more. Havoc Whip does 6 damage, or Unholy Malice. You can only use it if you have 6 cards in your hand. Beep. There you go. That's the funniest way to show that possible. If you do, you discard your entire hand, deal 6 damage to each of up to 3 fighters your opponent controls. So triple 6 damage, and then you're still giving everything else charge. This card is insane. If you're going to extra life anything, Scrooge Elephant, get this card. It's awesome. Okay, we're going to go to Reptilian. The little sparky dinosaur boy. There we go. It has Shocking, which means fighters damaged by this deal 2 less damage during their owner's next turn. They get shocked. And it also has Zap, so it ignores armor and attacks right through it. The combination of that, again, very rare. I want to say it's up here, but I mean, I'm going to put it at B tier. Shocking and Zap are a really, really powerful combo, but I still don't see enough people actually run this card. So we'll jump to the next one. Surgosaurus, his evolution. It's a Stegosaurus with Edison bulbs along its back. Again, Shocking and Zap, a little bit more damage. I don't feel like it belongs in A tier, so it's going to hop into B tier. Alright, with that, we're going to jump into our first variant from base set. This is the Meduset line where we shifted the type and changed its abilities entirely. So similar to Pokemon where they have a Pikachu in every set, give or take, we did the same, but we kind of shifted it like a Delta species. So this also has Shocking and Zap. but its main attack does 2 damage to any fighter or hero. Pretty cool. I mean, could we have just put that on the attack and had it be like a little 2 next to it? Yes. Yes, we could have, but we didn't. So it can't be affected by, plus or minus attacks. It is just a straight remote zap. I think because of that, it has to be a B tier. Without that, claws, it'd be an A tier, though. Gorgodo is essentially the same, but twice the fun. So now you're dealing 2 damage to up to 2 different targets. That brings it on the line of, Athena for me, and because of that, jumps it up a level, A tier. And then we have Venomusa, the electric Venomusa. Still shocking zap, but now Clamshell Catastrophe. Deal 2 damage to up to 3 different fighters or heroes. I wish it was 3 damage to 3, but that's fine, so I'm going to put that in B tier. It's just okay. You're doing 6 for 6 mana. It's okay. Narwhal's a weirdo in this game. He's kind of just a one-off out there, but your opponent may not activate surprises in response to this fighter's summoning, or for the first turn this is in play. So if you have a really good attack coming, you could put a Narwhal down and then take out fighters with no fear of saving grace. You could, activate all the spell cards without thinking of nopes, reverses, any of that stuff. It's good for that purpose as a utility card, but otherwise kind of weird. Situationally, C tier. Slick Rat. This card is wild. First off, the art is amazing with the 3D drop. That is so cool. And then the pick a card is essentially a mini game inside of your card game. So you put 3 cards face down. You pick one to add to your hand. Your opponent picks one to go to the top of the void. And then the last card, without being revealed, goes to the bottom of your deck. If your opponent picked a surprise to go to the void, at that point, you choose a target of theirs to deal 5 damage to. And because you deal the damage after it's, chosen, you don't pre-pick it. You can kind of selectively choose what to deal 5 damage to, and it makes it really powerful. I've got it in my Fantasia deck. It's a lot of fun. The minigame aspect, A tier. That's a cool card. Scaventinal. This is a replacement for any Gamatron piece. It costs 2 more than any of the prior ones. You can give your fighters armor. I don't think anybody's going to necessarily use it in place of Gamatron, but maybe if you had a deck, you would add it in. It's kind of a catch-all. C tier? D tier? It's just, it costs more. And, outside Metemics, it really doesn't replace anything and is better than it. If you replaced Metemics with Scaventinal, totally agree. Otherwise, kind of a bad replacement. Harpfly. First off, the arts, I love it. Between this one and Jazzy Fly, these are so pretty. Crescendo is pretty cool on here. Inspiring Concerto. Target a different fighter you control and roll a d4. Give the resulting number to that fighter as +1 attack tokens until end of turn. So, something else is going to gain between 1 and 4, which is nice. But instead of doing that, you could also just fly by and say to heck with luck and make sure you do 2 damage. Could be stronger, could be weaker. Solid C tier. A tier art, though. We have Jazzy Fly next. Quick break, 1 sec. It's a lot of talking, fam. I want to explain these well, though. So, Jazzy Fly, S tier art. I love this thing. I remember sketching this out on my iPad. The treble clef wings, the notes in the wings. Super pretty. Love this card. I think it gives Butterfree a run for its money. It also has our first instance of something 2 as an ability. So this has Crescendo 2. Every turn it attacks, you get +2 attack counters at end of turn. Inspiring Concerto on here. I think that's actually the same attack name. Target a different fighter you control, roll a d10. Again, you could roll it, or you could just go for no luck and deal 4 damage. Potentially, though, you're giving somebody +10, which is really powerful. I think it's better than Harpfly. B tier. All right, we have the new and improved friend. Does 2 more damage for each frenemy in play. I don't know. No, I'm going to say B tier. I think it's slightly worse. I'm pretty sure the other one does 2 more attack for each friend stacked. This one's only for frenemies. So yeah, B tier on this friend. All right, we have Kai. This is another essentially Delta species for us, a revamp to a fighter. This Kai does not equip as an equipment. He has Shocking and Zap, so similar to the Meduset and I want to say Reptilium. I could be wrong remembering that, but it is similar and it does 2 damage. So I'm gonna stick in B tier with all the rest of them. Yeah. He evolves from an HDMI cable into an AV cable. So these are the old school like red, white, and yellow cables that you plug into your TV. Pretty fun. 5 Zap is really cool. 5 Shocking is really cool. Solid B tier. We're gonna go to the ants now. Starting with Float Ant. 1/1/1. About honestly as basic as you can get. It's better than some things, but I don't necessarily see people using it. C tier. We have a Buoyant. For 4, it does 4. You can summon insect tokens. They don't really do anything right now. I actually think that might be slightly worse overall. It's not quite D tier worthy. I'm gonna say C tier. And then Frigant. Frigant for 9. This is a massive jump. You can summon 2 attack tokens to deal 9 damage, or deal 3 damage for each insect you have in play. Now this is where it gets interesting. If you have a lot of these Buoyants and a lot of these Frigants, you can get a ton of ants and swarm people. Then we're talking, right? It's kind of a slow buildup, but the potential's there. So I'm still gonna say C tier. Somebody pull it off and we'll jump it up to B. But for now, Toxalotl. In this video, I'm Toxalotling. It's got Shocking, Gift of Gab until end of turn. Adjacent fighters deal 1 more damage, just baseline. For 1, that's really good. You have to keep it alive at least a turn to do that, so B tier. Solid B tier. We have Chillzalotl, evolution for 3. It restores 2 health to adjacent fighters. I actually think that's kind of a worse effect. I wish it would deal more damage, so I'm gonna pop that down to C. And then Napsalotl, the mega evolution of this thing. Loud Lullaby, restore 3 health to each of your fighters. I think it's really good if you want to keep things alive and you're not taking more than 3 damage. You can essentially keep your squad alive forever with something like this. Objectively, it's better. Back to a B tier. Alright, Non-Fungible Toad. This is the joke card of the set. I always said that we would not make an NFT, so we made a Non-Fungible Toad and made him the worst card in this entire set. Each turn, a player's maximum mana goes up by 2, and this has charge. You can roll a d10, well basically pay 2 hero health, then roll a d10, and if you get a 9 or a 10, you gain 1 temporary mana. So you're spending 2 health for a 20% chance to get 1 temporary mana, and then each player's maximum goes up by 2, right? So your opponent gets to do that first, and if they kill NFT, you never benefit from this. Easily, and on purpose, a D tier. Possibly an F if we had an F tier. That card is worthless. On purpose. VR. This is the Crystal Fighter type. Very, very cool one. Again, very low cost. But during your turn, you can sacrifice this, and if you do, give one of your fighters 1 armor. Okay. Weird flex. I wouldn't necessarily do it, but the 3 damage for 2, that's pretty cool. B tier. Definitely B tier. Next we have Console. Console's the evolution. Looks a bit like a GameCube. Made of crystal. You could give 2 of your fighters +1 armor if you sacrifice it. Which again, like, I wouldn't. 5 damage for 4 is okay. It's a solid B tier. It's also neutral, so there's no weakness to it. And then the final one is going to be Arcade. There it is. Arcade, you can give each of your fighters +2 armor if you sacrifice it. Now we're talking. 7 for 6. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. B tier still. Not entirely enthused by it, but it's pretty cool. Okay, Binariling. This is the Goopy Fighter. He's got a really cool secret shard artwork. If I can find it, I'll put it on the screen over there-ish. So the main point with this guy in Colossus' evolution is to get a ton of token fighters and 1-drops in play, so you can reduce the cost of Colossus, who originally is 12. So you try to like drop him down to as low of a cost as possible. And by Narrowling summons 1 health spirit tokens. Boom. You can also use Bite and void 1 card from the top of your opponent's deck for each token and 1 fighter cost you have. So you could potentially have, a field of tokens, make them mill 6 every turn for a 2 mana drop. A tier. That's just a cool fighter. Doesn't really do any damage, but it's a cool utility. Colossus then is the spirit fighter that costs 1 less to play for each 1-drop and token. You can use data mining, whatever you want to say. Void 1 card from the top of your opponent's deck, deal damage equal to the cost of that card to anything. So after you reveal the cost, then you can be like, okay, I want to put that damage here. Or, and this is what's going to pop this up in value, error code. Void 2 cards from the top of your opponent's deck for each 1-cost fighter and token you have in play. I have really buffed this guy. I made somebody mill 52 cards because of that. I had like 26 tokens somehow. Boom. You're out. 1-hit KO. So for that, and because it's a 12 cost, which buffs a lot of other things, S tier. Whoopsh. That's a good card. I believe at this point we are down to the spells, equipments, and surprises. So we're going to start it off with the one of 2 rare spells in the set. Gamatron Slice. Deal damage to anything equal to half the quantity of cards in all players' voids, rounded down. Clearly it's an end turn game, or an end game turn card. For 7 mana, say if you both had 20 cards in your void, you're dealing 20 damage to something. So 40 divided by 2, 20. It's good. I would probably try to void cast this. I wouldn't necessarily pay the full cost. Again, it's only 1 chunk of damage, but you could deal it to a hero. B tier. Double time, there we go. Double all token fighters in play and then bind all token fighters. I think that dual use is very helpful. So you can use it to benefit you if you run token decks or if you're trying to get code losses. Or you can use it against tokens and bind them all and kind of gain a turn, away from all of them. It's pretty pricey, but for that dual use, B tier. Next up, Chain Lightning. Deal 3 damage to a fighter and 1 to adjacent fighters. You guys asked for it, we did it. It's a solid, standard card. B tier. Cheer Pyramid is another good one for the Colossus and token decks. You combine all your token fighters into a single giant token entity with combined health and attack. It's a super token. You can also give this newly created token Taunt, which makes this a hell of a card for token decks. And charge. So squish your tokens, give it Taunt, give it charge. For token decks, that's an S tier. For everybody else, that's an A tier. Negate all of your opponent's fighters' abilities during their next turn. Mechs may not evolve or attack during the start of your next turn. This straight up cancels Gamatron. So they can't do abilities. Gundra, Metemix, Aegisect, and Excaliger all have an ability to summon Gamatron. And Buckybot's evolving, this stops all of it. So this is like the anti-scrap metal. We gave scrap metal an S tier. This costs 4, not 0. We're going to give this an A tier. Frog of Duality. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck. Add one of them to your hand and the other on the bottom of your deck in any order. This works really well with Fantasia. Obviously, you can rearrange your deck and kind of shuffle it there. On its own, you're drawing 1 card for 3. Not the best. Outside of Fantasia use, I'd say it's a solid B or C tier. I'll give it a B because of the frog. Frog of Greed. For 3, you're now drawing 2 cards. But what does it do? It's a Pot of Greed reference. Come on, you guys know this. Frog of Greed, just like Pot of Greed, is an S tier. There is no excuse not to have that in your deck. It's just a good card. Okay, Wish Upon a Frog. Interesting card. Something that I haven't seen any other game do. You permanently fill 1 mana crystal. So you go down to 1, and it stays there. You can go past 1 to 0, and then it just resets to 1. So if you have a bunch of 1-drops in your hand, infinite, 1-drop fighters. The one trick is you can't store these in Fanny Pack, which we'll get to later, I believe. Fanny Pack allows you to deposit mana and use them later like a bank. You can't do that infinitely with that. So no cheating, but for a permanent mana, that's an S tier. That's a really cool card. All right, next track. All players must send at least one card from their hand to the bottom of their deck and draw an equal number of cards from the top of their deck. If a player has no cards, they just draw one. So it allows both players to choose between 1 and max hand size to put to the bottom and draw new. So it's like a mid-game mulligan is really what this card is. It's cool. It helps you both. It's kind of pricey. C tier. Pulling the strings. This is literally Puppet Master Wrong's attack. You summon a token. It helps a lot of the puppets and the synergies in this set. A lot of the tokens. It's an A tier. Puppet Master Wrong's an S, but this is an A tier. You don't have a fighter attached to this. Okay, armor up. Give 2 of your fighters +2 armor. It's pretty good for 3. I wouldn't necessarily use it myself. I'm going to say C tier on this one. Costume change. Little old layup action. You can unequip and re-equip your equipment in any way, just once. For 3, it's a bit costly, but if you had a lot of stuff on your hero, and maybe had some taunt fighters, you can now beef up your taunt fighters. I can't give this more than a C tier, but it's a really cool idea, in theory. Encore. Give each of your fighters and fighter tokens last dance. So if they're at 1 health, you draw a card and give an attack before they deal damage. It's good. It is not worth 5 mana, though. I think that's a little OP for this. This probably should have been a 3-drop. Because of that, I unfortunately got to give it the D tier. I'm sorry, Shia LaBeouf. Energy Drink. On the other hand, this card, give a target fighter charge and draw a card for 2. That's massive. I love this card. I love energy drinks, clearly. S tier. We have Flash Mob. Flash Mob is kind of a cutesy card. All of your fighters are now immune to binding until the start of your next turn, so no being bound. There are some surprises that kind of do this, but Flash Mob is a great counter to people with binding, and it's cheap. That's an A tier. Flip side, choose an effect, damage or heal by 2. For 2, you can't go wrong. Solid middle of the road card in my opinion. That is a B tier. That's backwards. A B tier. We have Force Field. Give a fighter +4 armor for 3. So instead of giving 2 and 2, you're giving one fighter 4. It's just a different take on that. I gave the last one a C. I'm going to give this one a C as well. Same idea. I believe this is one of the last frog cards in the set. Frog Dispenser. Search the top 5 of your deck for a frog and add it to your hand. Place the rest on the bottom in any order. So there's not many frogs that you would be able to choose. If you have the promo card Kamikeru, that'd be an amazing one to do this for. Otherwise, you're looking at Musical Frog, Lucky Frog, Unlucky Frog, maybe Dub's Toad as well. There's just not like that many. I think the main versatility of this is rearranging the bottom of your deck for Fantasia. But outside of that, minimal use case, I'm going to say C tier. It's kind of a costly Scry 5 with no for sure draw, so it's kind of weird. But yeah. Good Vibrations. Featuring Kazira on this art. Restore 4 health to a fighter and 2 to each adjacent one. It's good. It's not worth 5 mana. I think this is, again, like maybe a 3, maybe a 4, but definitely not a 5. So because of that, I am going to have to drop it into the D tier. I'm sorry. Kazira's not getting the love this time. She just isn't. That's too expensive for that, I think. Jam Session. Draw a card for each fighter you have in play, not including tokens. For 3, it's okay. It, could be more or less expensive, but if you've got a lot of 1-drops, then you are essentially drawing a card for a 1-drop, which is pretty good. I can give that a solid C tier. Alright, let's raise the roof with Scaventinal. Destroy an arena. It's fine. Arenas get destroyed when you play an arena, so the fact that you would play a spell to kill an arena instead of just playing your own arena is a little backwards. I mean, if you don't want to play an arena, that's one thing, but like, I don't actually know why you'd put this card in your deck if you just put an arena in your deck. D tier. Oof. Next we have a card I don't remember the name of. Show off. Each player chooses a fighter from their hand and reveals it simultaneously. The highest cost of the 2 is summoned regardless of evolution, but you cannot do Gamatrons. Don't even try it. I love this card because you as a player playing it, you know that you've sacked your deck for this moment. Your opponent probably hasn't. So it is a gamble. You could be helping your opponent out drastically, but if you're prepared, you've got a lot of high cost cards. I think this works out more often in your favor. B tier. Yep. We're gonna get to a bit of a Jigglypuff here. Soothing Melody. Restore 3 health to any target and remove all conditions. The removing conditions here does save it from the dreaded D tier, but not better than a C tier. I just don't see healing effects really doing that much. Crowd Surf. Void 2 cards from the top of your deck and draw a card. The fact that you void first and then draw is a little bit weird. I think if you're voiding cards, it almost feels like a utility in this case instead of a punishment, which is why the cost is so high. But you are drawing a card. Maybe this should have been a 1-drop. I have to put this in C tier. If it was a 1 cost, it'd be a B tier though. Next up, we got Unyeet. Really fun card name. I love the name. You discard 2 cards from your hand, search your void, pick a card, and place it in your hand. So it's like a swap, 2 for 1. I think there's really no downside to this. If you have, leftover cards in your hand you're not using, but something in your void you really want, why would you not do this? A tier. Very easy A tier. Okay, now we get to a really fun one. This one is called Fanny Pack. This is an equipment that goes with your hero. It cannot be destroyed with your hero's hit, unlike most equipments. And it serves as a mana bank. So, to stay on theme, we did Fanny Pack for the Harmonic Surge, but it's essentially mana bank. And that's what it went by internally when we were developing it. You can store mana in the Fanny Pack, and you can use it later on to boost your mana above your maximum. So if you put, by turn 5, you've stored 4, you've stored 3 that you didn't use. Now, turn 5, you've got 5 mana, plus like the 7 you saved. You've got 12 mana on turn 5. This card is great for summoning big stuff early. It's fashionable. I like it. It's an S tier. You should have this in your deck. If you don't, try it out. This one I have a sore spot for. Team Uniform in base set gives you +1 attack for each fighter and token you control. This was supposed to be the opposite. It should have been +1 health for each fighter and token you control, so it would have paired nicely. Instead, between reviews, our graphic designer and we did not catch that it had switched back to attack. So this is a proxy of Team Uniform, and I hate it for that. It should have been health. It's not. It's literally just Team Uniform, and that drives me nuts. I have to say it's D tier for that, but objectively it's good, so I'll put it in B tier. But D tier on premise. Hate it. Diss Track. This card enters play with 3 time counters on it. I almost just did a metal sign. 3 time counters. Remove a time counter at the end of your opponent's turn. When this card has 0 time counters on it, the attached fighter or hero takes 6 damage, and this equipment is destroyed. So you can attach this to your opponent's hero, to your opponent's fighter, whatever you're feeling, and then in 3 turns it's going to take 6 damage. It's pretty good. Typically a fighter's going to die in that time. I usually see this go to a hero, but 3 turns is a long time. A lot can happen. B tier. Yeah. We're on the final roll, fam. Glowing Mask. Little bit of a Daft Punk reference here. Give the equipped fighter or hero 5 armor. And when their armor reaches 0, the mask explodes and does 5 damage to the source responsible. Or if you like do a spell damage to take it out, it just does it to that hero. It's cool that it has that dual use. It's like a mysterious vial, but like more potent, slightly more expensive. I'd say B tier. Yeah. Boomer Base. I love this card's name. I love the art. It's just, everything about this is fun. The equipped fighter gets +1 attack and gains when it deals damage. Target opponent voids a number of cards from the top of their deck equal to the damage dealt. So put it on something beefy, hit, and then instantly it's got mill. Like every time you're attacking, you're making your opponent mill. Which is pretty cool. I think that is at least deserving of an A tier. Great for mill decks. Highly, highly recommend. I believe this one is called Dance Shoes. Yes. Dancing Shoes. The equipped fighter or hero is immune to binding for 1. Why would you not, right? Like, it's just, that's an A tier. That's almost S tier, but it's just like, it's a 1-drop. I don't know. It's only helping 1 fighter, but if you're against a deck that's with binding, you don't have to worry anymore. It's pretty cool. Flashy Suit. Kind of a weird art, but he's got like a really tight, flashy, like spandex metallic suit on a friend. The equipped fighter or hero may block an attack and become the attack's new target. This effect can be used more than once in a turn. So essentially turns one of your fighters into Magic the Gathering's attack pattern. So you'd be like, oh no, I volunteer's tribute. For 3, it's kind of a lot, but it's okay. I'll put it at C tier. I haven't seen it used enough, but it's a cool effect in theory. We have Broken Amp next, which I'm looking is the last equipment here. When the equipped fighter attacks, roll a d10. If the result is 9 or 10, so about a 20% chance, double damage is dealt prior to weakness or resistance. I think it's better than Revengerator in that regard. It's not health dependent, it's luck dependent. I think it's better. You might think it's worse because of that, but I really like luck cards. So I still have to say C tier. I mean, you are paying mana for something that might not ever have an effect. C tier, yeah. And with that, we're on to the surprises and the final cards in Cosmic Collision. Banana Peel. The only JoJo reference confirmed in Nostalgix: when a fighter of yours is attacked, not your hero, just a fighter, pause the attack, deal 3 damage to whatever's attacking, and only resume that attack if the attacking fighter is still alive. For 3, you can't go wrong. Solid A tier. Also for the memes, Banana Peel is just great. We have Backup Dancers. Very cute artwork again. When your hero is attacked, pause it, summon 2 Puppet Master Wrong little tokens, the puppet tokens with taunt, and then change the attack target to one of those puppets. It works with Puppetto, it works with Wrong, it stops your hero from being attacked, which is something a lot of Magic players do. I have to say that's probably an A tier. That's just a good card. Mixtape. This is an X cost, which means whatever you pay, you can counter and use a spell that costs 1 more than it. So let me explain. If you pay 1 mana to play Mixtape, then you can counter a spell that costs 2. Your opponent doesn't get to use it. You go, nope, Mixtape, I'm going to take over that spell that costs 2 and use it as my own immediately. So it's a bit of a mind game, but because it's so versatile and it's really like you against your opponent, this is an S tier. Mixtape is incredible. It should be in everybody's deck. If you know your opponent's deck, why do you not have this card in your deck? Just counter their main spell and, you just disrupt their entire game. Alright, Dance Fatigue. Witchy Longlegs danced too much. Turns out you need a torso to have good cardio, and you bind everything that attacked. This is an S tier. Binding is so powerful, and if you bind everything that attacked, you essentially get a second turn at life, which is just phenomenal. Easy S. Fast Reflexes. When your opponent activates a card that would bind 1 or more fighters, negate that effect. So like Dance Fatigue. Make all fighters you control immune to binding until the end of your next turn. So it's like the opposite Dance Fatigue. It's situational. I think trying to bind everything is more valuable than countering itself. A tier. Total Recall says negate an attack that targets one of your fighters and return the attacked fighter and all pre-evolutions of it to your hand. Any equipment attached returns as well. So you're basically springboarding or yeeting the thing they're attacking back, and it essentially negates the attack as a result. It's good if you have a fighter with a lot of damage, you kind of want to like recast it. But again, resummoning it, not the greatest feeling in the world. So we're going to say B tier. Final 4, we have Stop. Wait a minute. Negate an attack, fully heal the target of the attack if it was a fighter. This is, for the record, double the cost of the last surprise. Fully healing, I don't think it's worth that. This is a C tier. Cool artwork, though. Very cool artwork. Laser Barrier. Negate an attack again. No additional fighters can attack this turn, and your opponent's cards cost 1 more mana for the rest of their turn. It's an expensive surprise. At 5, it's the most expensive. I wish it was cheaper. The effect is great. You essentially stop their attacking ability, and if they attacked first, then the rest of their turn, they're kind of screwed. Because of the cost, it has to be a B, but it's very close to an A for me. Expensive card. Take one of their fighters, remove it from the game, and their owner can only get it back if they pay 10 mana. That's crazy. You just basically remove something from the entire game forever. Unless your opponent's like, fine, I'll pay 10 to get it back. I think it's a funny card. It costs a lot to do it. It's a B. And the last card in the entire set is going to be Upstaged. A little Kanye West, Taylor Swift reference. Poor Taylor Swift. When an opponent attacks a fighter of yours with less than 5 health left, pause the attack. Deal 1 damage to all of their fighters and then resume it if the attacking fighter is not destroyed. I think it's nice that 1 damage isn't going to necessarily take anything out, but pausing the attack and like hitting everything quick, always a good feeling. B tier. And with that, how did we do? That is every single card in Nostalgix Harmonic Surge, the second set we released. Third set is below, Cosmic Collision. We have pre-orders running till the end of March 2024. If you want to try out the game, that's a great way to do it. Otherwise, we have base set and Harmonic Surge in stock, ready to ship at nostalgixtcg.store. Hope you guys enjoy. The final video of this, probably the final video, will be the Cosmic Collision run through tier list, and then maybe we'll do promos after, but we'll see. Maybe we'll do like a Secret Shard art tier list if these are popular and people really like these longer form videos. But anyway, click over there if you want to see a video that YouTube recommends, or click down here-ish if you want to subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Zaba out.